All right, let's dive right in. Our main guide for this whole story is the historian Josephus, and he's painting a picture of Judea just simmering with rebellion under Roman rule. But this isn't just another story about a revolt. No, it's about a fundamental shift in how power works, how one type of leader, the warrior, gets wiped out, and a totally different kind, the political operator, rises to take their place.
You can just feel the tension here. The old ways of fighting for your freedom, well, they're failing, and they're leaving a trail of bodies. But out of all that chaos, a whole new political game is starting. And it's being played by a man who gets it, who understands that the future isn't going to be one with swords, but with quiet whispers in the right Roman ears.
So you've got to understand, Judea at this point is just a mess. It's in constant upheaval. Roman governors are coming and going, and every time a new one shows up, they're facing a new wave of insurrection. It feels like this endless cycle of violence, and it's all about to come to a head in a really bloody way.
Just as the Roman general Gabinius heads off for Egypt, a Hasmonean prince named Alexander sees his opening. Now this guy, he's a throwback. He represents the old guard, the warrior kings, proud, defiant, and totally ready to go head-to-head with Roman legions. He rallies the people for what feels like one last, desperate push for independence.
And wow, do people answer the call? A massive force of 30,000 Jews flock to his banner. I mean, we're not talking about some small-time skirmish here. This is a full-blown national uprising. It's like the final, fiery breath of that old-school Hasmonean style of rebellion.
But here's the thing about Rome. They do not like being defied. General Gabinius hears about the revolt, and he immediately turns back from Egypt. And he's not coming to talk. He's coming to completely crush this rebellion and make a brutal example of anyone who dared to challenge Roman power.
So the two armies meet near Mount Tabor. On one side, you have 30,000 passionate rebels, fighting for their homeland. And on the other, you have the relentless, organized, unstoppable Roman war machine. The clash was always going to happen, and its outcome is going to decide the entire future of Judea.
And well, the result is an absolute disaster. The Romans are just brutally efficient. Josephus tells us that 10,000 Jewish fighters are cut down in the battle. The rebellion is completely shattered. And that dream of ever beating Rome on the battlefield, it dies right there with them.
Okay, and this is where the entire story takes a sharp turn. After the battle, as Gabinius is reorganizing the government, who does he listen to? Not the old nobles. No, he listens to a man named Antipater. And that's the key here. While the warrior Alexander was losing everything on the battlefield, the politician Antipater was winning in the halls of power.
So the military threat is gone, but a new one arrives. After Gabinius, we get Marcus Crassus, literally one of the richest men in Rome. He's not there to make friends, let me tell you. He's there for one thing, money. He needs to fund his hugely ambitious war against the Parthian Empire.
I mean, just look at this list. It's a revolving door of governors. Scaurus, Gabinius, Crassus, Cassius, each one with their own agenda. All this instability created a massive power vacuum, and a really clever operator like Antipater knew exactly how to take advantage of that.
This right here shows a major shift in how Rome is dealing with Judea. Years earlier, the great general Pompey had shown at least some respect. He conquered Jerusalem, but he left the temple's treasury alone. Crassus? He couldn't care less. He just marches in and strips the temple bare, taking every last bit of gold. To him, Judea's most sacred place is just a bank for his next war.
And Josephus gives us this almost chilling little postscript. Crassus gets his money, yeah, but his Parthian campaign is a complete and utter disaster. He and his entire army are wiped out. For the people back in Judea, it must have felt like divine justice, payback for desecrating their holy temple.
The death of Crassus brings yet another Roman, Cassius, into the picture. And it's what he does next, with a little bird named Antipater whispering in his ear, that really seals the deal for the old guard and paves the way for a brand new dynasty. Cassius is there to restore order, and he brings the hammer down with that classic Roman brutality. He decides to make an example of the city of Taricheae, which had dared to keep the rebellion going. The message couldn't be clearer. Resistance is futile.
And the human cost? It's just unbelievable. 30,000 people from that one city are rounded up and sold into slavery. This is the final nail in the coffin for armed resistance. The price of rebellion has just become way too high for anyone to pay.
Okay, but here is the absolute key detail, the real bombshell. Cassius isn't just acting on his own. Josephus tells us he executes the rebel leader Pithyllus specifically on the advice of Antipater. This is a total game changer. Antipater is now using Roman power as his own personal weapon to get rid of his political rivals. So, what's his strategy? It's simple, really. Forget these big, heroic, but ultimately doomed rebellions. Antipater's whole approach is to make himself indispensable to the Romans by giving them good advice, by building friendships. He figured out that real power didn't come from fighting Rome, it came from making them your friends, your patrons.
See, Antipater isn't just playing for himself, he's playing the long game. He's building a dynasty. He makes a smart marriage and he has 4 sons ready to carry on his work, including one whose name would echo through all of history, Herod. The groundwork is being laid for a whole new royal family.
So let's step back. The picture is pretty clear now, right? The old way of the Hasmonean warriors, it's over, finished. A new era has begun, and it's not defined by rebellion, but by clever political maneuvering. Antipater has completely outplayed everyone, and his family is now in the perfect position to take over.
And all of this leaves us with one really fascinating question. The age of the warrior priest king is over. What Rome needs now is a client king, a local guy who can keep the peace and look out for their interests. The man who's going to fit that role perfectly has to be a master politician, a ruthless operator, and a brilliant builder. The man this new era demands is Antipater's son, Herod.